Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Heartwell dev stream, the live stream series where I continue to develop this adorable Souls-like action RPG with platform mechanics and branching narrative. If you find these dev streams interesting or helpful, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and boop that bell button to stay notified. Now, in the last dev stream, of course, we were working on sound effects for different material surfaces. So, in our case, we were primarily working on some wooden surfaces on this part of the, on this portion of this floor of the dungeon, and we're going to pick up with that tonight. So, if I'm remembering correctly, we last left off in this area, well, not in this area, in this area, where we were defining some areas with different sound effects. Now we're going to do the same in some of these other portions. For example, I don't think we actually defined this spot right here. So let's start with that right there. Hello, Coppernuts, and thanks for dropping by. How's it going, dude? So while I'm in the midst of doing that and defining those regions, what have I been up to with Heartwell off stream? Well, there's been two major things. First, I actually did finish composing another song for Heartwell, so very excited for that. And I got all implemented in the portion of the demo that it will be in. So that's gets me ever closer to finishing the music that'll be necessary for the demo. The other thing I've got set up is, well, not set up, but I've started to make better progress with the main menu. So now it's actually possible to switch between the different tabs on the main menu. And I've also got a lot of the text displaying for the different save file stats. So all in all, that's moving along quite nicely at this point. Now, in terms of, yep. Oh, you're about to drive over to Walmart? Fair enough, Copper Nicholson, fair enough. But yeah. So I'll be focusing primarily on trying to get these areas programmed. Let's see, did I program? First thing I want to check is whether or not I programmed this area. Actually, I take it back. I think we're currently programming metal, so it would make sense that I hadn't programmed that area. Let's take a look. My notes say one is metal. Okay, so we have to define metal. In which case, if we're here, around there is the this room right here. That means my next probable location is to go down here. I guess that's see, chat, this is an interesting surface right here because, you know, it's mostly metal in the middle with a tiny bit of wood on the side. I'd say it would probably line up more with the metallic feeling to it, just because the wood would probably have to be fairly sturdy here, and the metal would definitely add to that. So we'll hop on that right away. I think it'll be easier to do it from the screen. Okey-doke. So what I'm doing right now, chat, is I'm just defining the regions that'll be impacted here. So that'll be stuff in this portion right here. Yeah, there's our rectangle. We need to line it up nice and easily. I believe we had some notes about this. Line up the material zones with their y coordinates and shift them up by 10 due to the offset from the action point. That's because the action point is not a the hitbox for Dorothy is not a dot. It has to be a rectangle for collision purposes. As a result, I need to make adjustments to the zones like this to account for that. Because the if this box were Dorothy's hitbox, the action point would be towards the top center like that. which means that I need to shift something like this upward, because while Dorothy's action point might be over the edge, her actual where she's standing is actually on the platform, and it needs to line up with what the player visually sees. So we're gonna try and adjust that finally. I think we'll want to be a couple pixels off, just because it is, as we see in the map editor, only a central portion of the platform that is actually metal, and the rest is not. Let's adjust that real quick. Thinking, so we'd start around there. Right, that's an ideal scenario. We shifted up by 10. That'd be a bit too much there. Let's try 78. All right, let's see how that goes. And we, of course, also need to pull this down here so that it can reset the value. Cool, alrighty. We got that all squared away. Now let's see what that sounds like, just so we can see if we have it all lined up. So we'll platform our way over there. You can actually hear the different sound effects here. Right now we're standing on a metallic surface. Now we're on a stone surface, so it sounds more like stone. Kind of like in Minecraft in a sense. I know it's not the exact same sound effects because I physically made the sound effects. Essentially, what the sound effect is, I think it was me tapping on my table with my finger and then giving a much bassier sound in Audacity. And the end result is it sounds like walking on stone. Whereas the metal sound effect was, I think I got like my key ring or something. Like I have like a metallic piece attached to my key ring, and I was basically tapping my finger on that and then adjusting on Audacity to get the metal sound effect. Now, this will be the area to test. There are some Carbatos here. They do damage. There's also the Cobra. They also do damage. We do not want to deal with them. And with my testing, because I've been had to test the boss battles a lot, I actually got a lot of experience points, which I purposely threw all into stuff that increases damage for some of the weapons, so that I can... now this is obviously, like the levels I'm at right now are way above what the expectation would be for the demo, because I defeated the bosses many times during testing. But I'd say expected level range for a new player is going to be somewhere between level 3 and level 10, I want to say, depending on what the player's skill level is. Now that being said, must defeat Cabrattles very carefully. Hit that Cabrattle. And of course, now we have lots of space to work with. Nice and easy. Okay, so let's see how, this is what we're testing right here, so. Okay, that's, so this should be, I guess that should still be metal, but it's like here, oh. I would say that should be wood, so maybe we need to shift it up a few pixels. Okay, I think that that line on the right's good. Right, that should be. Yeah, I actually think we got the left and right lines perfectly fine. It's just the lower line with a higher line. All right, that should be metal. Right now, chat, I'm just very, very gently tapping my WASD keys to try and get Dorothy as close to the edge of this wooden plank as possible. I think we actually got the upper portion lined up quite nicely. Well, I mean, maybe slightly, maybe so 1 pixel higher, but that's, well, does it? Out here. Whoops. Back. Okay. I'd say 1 pixel higher at the top, 2 to 3 pixels higher at the bottom. Easy enough. All right, and we'll adjust it up here too. So that to that, so that to that. Bada bang, bada boom. That should be enough of a fine adjustment to guess where we need to be. Platform background over. And we'll test that out. Because once we have that lined up, it'll be a lot easier to program the zones for those other graded platforms we saw, because they will all be at, we'll be able to use the same like size of a region from the one we're creating right now and be able to duplicate it in other areas. We can just calculate how like the offset for each creature region and manually type that in to make this go a bit more smoothly. And hop, there we go. All right, now we're back here. Let's test it out, chat. So we're trying to make it so when Dorothy's standing on this metal grate, it sounds like she's walking on metal, and when Dorothy is standing on the wooden portion of this, it sounds more like she's walking on a wooden plank. Or as more so stone in this case, because we don't have to go that far into detail here, but not quite. Definitely has shifted up a little bit more. It's better, but not perfect. I think that should be metal. Yeah, I'd say 1 to 2 pixels more. But how about the upper portion? Good. Now if we slightly shimmy up, perfect. Okay, I think the top's perfect. We just need to shimmy the bottom one up about 2 pixels should do it. So what we had before, I guess I overestimated it because I often forget how the relative dimensions of Dorothy's collision box. But we have that all squared away. Next order of business is going to be to propagate it in other areas. So for example, pop on this over here. Be very, very careful with that. Take that, hydrate with some water. All right. There we go. Now we've got that to put over here. Essentially, what I was saying before, Chad, is we have to, we'll use, like, I could try to drag these over manually, but that would also mean we do a lot of fine tuning in places. So I say, let's just use the power of math to move it into the exact coordinates that it needs to go. And why can we do that? Because all these tiles are in 32 by 32 blocks. So we can write down, let's use a placement notes. current coordinates so our current coordinates are that. Let's ship that over here so that we can see it more easily. There we go. I like to do this sometimes, chat, where I have basically two windows open one next to the other, so that I don't have to like remember things. I just look over at a glance and see how things are. Some people like to have multiple monitors. I mean, I personally don't like having that many electronics facing me at a given time. But I can understand the appeal if one needs to see multiple things at the same time. Actually, for those who are in chat, what are your preferences with monitors? Do you prefer just to have one single monitor in front of you? Do you like to have two monitors side by side? Do you like to have more than that? I'd be curious to hear, because I've always kind of preferred just having one single monitor. I think we can, because the way I'm going to set it up now as coordinates. Well, I mean, it is still coordinates, but I'm listing the x coordinates together because that's how it's listed in the menu. I'll make it a lot easier to read from the perspective of trying to place the coordinates in the correct area. Okay, so y coordinates 2250 to 2273. All right, and this is where mathematics come into play. So I'll pull up a calculator on my phone and we'll essentially be testing what's the relative location that we need to place things. So we pull up the map editor, just trying to plan ahead. This time makes me think of like how programming levels must have been like in the old days, where you couldn't like visually see what you were making until you had to run your application. You would have to plan out ahead of time like the coordinates of where certain tiles are. So that's kind of what we're doing here to make things go a bit faster. So this is where we're at currently. That's the current coordinates we have. We want to be here. So that's 4 spaces to the right, which means for each space we add 32 to the x coordinate to get us over there. So 32 times 4 is 128. And we're just going to add that. I'll make some notes here to differentiate these. I'll call this the exercise run metal grate locations. Current coordinates. Are that. Area 1 will be the basically these x values each need to increase by 128. So 1796 plus 128 is going to be 1924. And the second one, 1820 plus 128, just some simple mental math there, is 1948. These are indeed 24 separated from each other. So that's what we're going to put in for the second batch of coordinates. That's area 2. We have, so we start from this area, we go over 3, so we have to increase everything by 96 in the x direction. Then we go down 1, which means it has to be 32. In this case, normally up and y would be positive, down would be negative. Fusion 2.5 is a little weird. It's I think it kind of has this y-axis inverted, And I think the reason it does that is because everything in Fusion 2.5 centers around the start of the edge of the frame. So like the top left corner of the frame, which it's off screen, but basically there's a part of the stream where we go off frame, so it kind of looks like this, as you can see. So we're kind of like over the edge here. So if essentially Fusion 2.5 kind of orients everything to this top left corner, and as a result, Y would be down, since that would be positive into the frame. At least the x coordinates are not inverted, so that makes that a little easier to understand. But for our purposes, while in most cases Y would be, this would be a negative value, in actuality, since we're going down, that's a positive value. So we'll take basically the coordinate we just put out. Now we have to add 96 to the x coordinates. So this becomes 2020, which is ironically only a couple of years from today, a couple of years earlier from today. I remember 2020 is the year I graduated from college. And now we add 24 to that. That gets us to 2044. Okie doke. So that'll be that region. As for the y coordinates, again, we have to, since we're going downward, it's the positive y direction, since that's downward in this case. So add 32 to that. So some simple mental math here. 2250 plus 32 is 2282. And this becomes 2305, I want to say. 13 plus, yeah, 2305. And that lines up because this, the difference in the y coordinates here is 23, the difference here is 23, so that lines up. That's that area, and I think the remaining two areas are going to be pretty easy because they're just in a straight line equidistant from each other. So from this box right here, we add 3 blocks worth of spaces, so that's 96 in that direction. I believe. Yeah. That's like that. So 1, 2, 3, that was 96. So from here, 1, 2, 3, that's 96. And same thing over here, 96 again. So that's to our coordinates. Area 3. These are all in y coordinates now, so now this x will stay the same, but the y will change. And we're subtract, not add, subtract. I always get the y inversions, y inversions mixed up. So we have 2282. We have to subtract 96. That gets us 2186. Then we subtract 2305 minus 96. 2209. All right. Now we'll copy this. One more subtraction. Again, same operation. We're just subtracting 96 again from these values. 2186 minus 96 is 2090. And 2209 minus 96 is 2113. All right, so we got those values all identified. Now all we have to do is program them. So to the event list we go. Since that's a duplicate, we will adjust that accordingly. So we have all the coordinates set up correctly. So now, without even looking, you'll notice, chat, this is just the awesome power of mathematics. So Horizontal, we change you to 1924, and we change you to 1948, and then magically it's perfectly lined up. I really feel for the developers who had to program tile mapping in the era before we had visual ways to reference it prior to actually playing playing the game or playing a test of the game. That was just, I mean, like at that point, you probably would have had to get like a pencil and paper out or a separate document to try and identify where specific things needed to be. So, like older video games, they're really impressive with not only how they're put together, not only how they work, but also how they were put together in the first place. I know, like especially, I think like the older Pokemon games, especially the ones that were on like the really early handheld Nintendo devices, they had to for the era, like for the kind of game that they had, where they had like, you know, well over 100 different unique, you know, Pokemon that could be controlled by the player, and like leveling up their stats and all those RPG mechanics. That's all a lot of complicated data, and they basically had to try and make that, squeeze all that data into a really tiny amount of memory to make the game work. So as a result, they're in like the reason why it's a big reason why like Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf and like Pokemon Red and Blue are so, or was it Pokemon Red and Blue or Red and Green? I don't remember. Basically, the Generation 1 Pokemon games, they were so well optimized, but that optimization also meant that if you did weird stuff with the menus, it would be very easy to glitch out. So, pros and cons to those optimizations, because they had to basically really carefully annotate information. It also, in order to fit in the tiny file size limitations, it also led to those glitches. So, little fun game development facts from Antomicx. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think like the old Pokemon, like the Generation 1 Pokemon games would actually have a smaller file size than most Flash games of like the 2010 era would have had. Which is, again, like just mind-boggling to think of like how much information is stored, like was able to be jam-packed into like the tiny memory size limitations of the really old Nintendo handheld devices. Anyway, that being said, we also need to get all these values all programs. I think we can get all the metal platforms in this lower level program. That'll be a big accomplishment. This took us a while to get through this last stream, but it's important. It's good for immersion. Something isn't right there. Actually, no, that's right. I was looking at that. I'm like, are those the Y coordinates? No. XY. Alrighty. Also, that just leaves 2 more. So I'll copy these out. No, don't want to edit that quite yet. All right, that's one. We're just gonna add these Y coordinates, 2186 and 2209. Okay. Well, that looks good. And we'll add this one. So 2090, 2113. And there we go. So now the only other thing to do is to copy these values down to this line, because this is the reset line. get that. And then we'll edit those to say is equal to 0, so it lines up with the code. Because what that second line is doing is checking to make sure it's not in any of these particular regions. So I can reset the walking sound effect value so to the default. All right. Enter that. And one more. Now with that, should be good for testing. Let's go take a look. Whee! Alright, head on up. Okay. Let's keep on moving, keep on moving. Sprint on over. Whee! Up we go. Almost there. Almost dashed off the edge there, that would have been bad. Ah, as I say, as I walk off the edge. Oh, it's okay. So, stamina management is important, and I jumped a little too early there. Apologies about that, chat. We'll get over there, though. Yeah, the thing, when I was flying out these rooms in my, like in the level, like in the tile editor, I was thinking like, okay, I hope I got the difficulty right. And then I find myself like stumbling over these simple jumps. I'm like, okay, I think I got the difficulty right. Okay, so here we are, chat. You'll notice, now, we have some nice, wonderfully programmed edges here. Like I'm on the edge here. And I'm making the default. If I move in a little bit, a smidge more. There we go. I mean, here you just argue that Dorothy is still standing kind of on the outer edge of the wood. But here, she moves in now, her foot's firmly on the metal, makes that metal sound. Now if we sprint jump over here, yep, there's metal. If we move down a bit, yep, now we're on wood. Now we're metal, wood. And if we sprint jump down to the other side, should be a similar story. Yep, all metal. We go to the edge, it's wood. Alright, pretty cool, chat. So that covers that area. So we'll mark that one complete in our notes. So say done. As feed plus cell would say from Trails of Cold Steel. So next we have to work on next batch of metal locations. So going through this path over here, the next metallic location that I can remember is gonna be here. Well, I guess now we're moving towards the central path, which I'm fine with. We're always gonna end up at the central path eventually in this area. So I'm gonna start with the metal grate location up here. Now what's interesting about this is it does have those curved edges to it, so I'll have to think about whether, like, I can only do rectangular zones, not circular zones. So I'm thinking we'll basically treat the edges here as though they're partially metallic, even though I know that's not exactly the case, just because we're not going to be able to get perfectly around these edges without doing like multiple programming lines. And just having smaller and smaller edges might be a bit overkill. So we have that, and we have this area, these lines up here. Sorry, these pipe platforms up here. Well, this whole big area would be metallic, which honestly might make it easier to program. because there's just so much metal in this ROM. So let's start here. So central path, large metal grate in the center. Let's get programming. I know eventually if we keep at this chat, we are going to hit the 128 execute programming line limits in a single line of code. And if that does happen, then we'll just add a new line of code. As I did manage to hit that that limit recently. I posted a meme about the Discord server a few weeks ago. Yeah, Fusion 2.5 cannot handle having more than 128 expressions in a single line of code. So it's something very important to keep in mind when programming things like this. So I'm surprised that didn't move along with it. Okay. Not sure where it went. Up we go. Up we go. Slowly. There we go. Now we can maneuver it accordingly. Line that up on the edge. This we can. Okay, so as before, we're going to first line up visually, then we'll decrease the y coordinates by 10. So to the best of my ability, that's lined up. This will decrease that by 1 here. Well, I just increase that by 1. Then decrease by 10, so 52, 21 should be all lined up there. And since we want to do testing in bursts rather than all at times, it does take us a little bit of time to move Dorothy to specific portions of the dungeon. We'll start creating lines for the upper pipe systems as well. Speed testing along. Let's zoom on up here. Yeah, you know, that's just the spot back there where the rectangle is there for a moment. Fusion 2.5 does struggle sometimes to get the right placement of these things visually. I was just trying to do many things at once. But regardless, I've always enjoyed Fusion 2.5's interface. As when I was much younger, like I was in middle school, I really enjoyed Flash games and wanted to be able to make my own. And I struggled to comprehend basic programming concepts back then. Granted, I was trying to self-teach myself, and I was just a middle school student, so that's not like the easiest thing to do. But of all the various things I tried, Fusion 2.5 was what actually started to make sense with me. Or I guess the predecessor, so at the time it was the Games Factory 2. And fast forward, and now we're here. Where now I'm no longer trying to follow the chakra breaks tutorial, as everyone who's used the Games Factory, the Games Factory 2 probably has, and instead, really pushing the software to its limits and seeing what the software is capable of. And it's a lot of fun. All right, so yeah, that lined up. Now we adjust a little bit, so 998. Just that down, 26. We'll actually be able to use this as a model for this one here and this one here. So, boop. We're gonna have to do some more mathematics. So looking at how this is lined up, we can move left 2 tiles and then down 2 tiles. So that is a negative 64 for the x coordinates and a positive 64 for the y coordinates. So with that in mind, lower room with pipes. We have well, I'll just call them lower pipe. Pipes area 1. So 28. Well, pipes area 1. 816 to 2848. And then 8 to 1126. Now we'll do for plus pipes area 2. We have to subtract 64 from this value. So 2816 is 64 is 2752. Add 32 to that, we end up with 2784. Since these two values are 32, a distance of 32 apart, that means these values would be a distance of 32 apart. As for over here, 998 to 1126, that has to be increased by 32. 998 plus 32 is 1030. And with the 1126 plus 32 would be 1158. That should all line up quite nicely. Now I'll do pipes area 3. Now, the one interesting thing about pipes area 3 is it is slightly longer than the other set of pipes. So, whereas these two sets of pipes are 4 tiles long, this one is 5 tiles long. So we'll make some adjustments appropriately. So first things first, another 64 subtracted for x, and then we move upward 1. So that's minus 32. But then at the top y coordinate, we're going to add, well, not add, subtract another 32 to represent that. So What does that look like in practice? Well, in actuality, it's going to look a lot like this. What does we add to that? So all the x coordinates will be adjusted from here. The y coordinates will be adjusted from here. So that 998 is actually the same. We go down to 1158. No, not quite 1150. Would be 1158. Might have done this incorrectly. Yep, I did it incorrectly. So the y coordinate should have been shifted down to 2 tiles. I only shifted it down by 1. It's a pretty simple effect. It becomes 1062. This becomes 1090. Let me double check that. Oh, sorry, not 1090, 1190. There we go. Which means that this would actually be 1030. Well, actually, not 1030. 998 to what this was, 1158. This is 1 tile above that. Well, it's normally 26 because that would be a 4 tile block. Now it's a 5 tile block. All right, and now we have to move over the x coordinates. So another subtraction of 64. So 2752 minus 64, 2688. And 2784 minus 64, 2720. Which adds up to that's 32. The distance is 32 apart from each other. That's 2720 minus 26. 88 would be 32. And now we program. So okay, so this gets adjusted to 2752. This gets adjusted to 2784. It's adjusted to 1062. And 1190. As you can see, we've perfectly lined it up now. Now we'll add uno mas. One more zone. $26.88. Should be able to see it. Yep, there it is. 26.8 to 27.20. And 998 to 1158. Bada bing, bada bum. And look at that, chat. Nice and lined up. Right. Now to start copying down some lines of code before we get too far ahead of ourselves. The 1321 line should be not there yet, and it's not, as expected. That's fine. So we're copying these lines down again just to make sure that we have the reset equation all squared away. And from there, we'll just adjust those values to be equal to 0 to match the rest of the line of code. Okay, so we got that. Save that. Made some adjustments. Can't press enter for that. 0, I can press enter for that. And we will get through this together, chat. We will make the sound effects sound good in the correct sounds. So now that we did that, next portion is going to be, oh, I actually missed a spot. Hee hee hee. Almost forgot about that little spot right there. No matter. So this one, we can actually do some adjustments with knowing where this line is as a base, as a basis for the programming. So that line is the, I believe that's the 1126 line. So we'll try it on down there. Whoops. And we're going to, and this will be an area for us to do just a little bit of mental math, chat. So we need to shift it over one to the right. So that's just going to be adding 32 to this. So this becomes 2880. This becomes 2848, the thing that the previous edge was. And this is for the vertical. So first we subtract 16 this time. You're wondering why 16? Because it goes down a half a tile instead of a full tile. So I know it's not subtract, add 16. So that's 998 plus 16 is 1014. And then this time we would add 96 to this. Actually, not 96. We'd add 64 to this. So 1014 plus 64, 1078. That's a little bit too much, so we'll, right, because it has to be 32, not that, so it has to be half that. Whoops. That's okay. 46. Yep, there we go. Now it's 32 by 32 block. That should sound good. Next, we'll copy that on over here. Set that to 0. That's all ready for testing. I'll make a note of that. Metal. Call this the small metal machine. Or a small metal cabinet slash machine. Next, we're going, next areas will be defined in chat. We're going to go up to the more central portion. We'll call it the large metallic room, so basically the power room. So there's, as you can see, chat, there is a lot of metal here. And I do mean a lot. But that's actually a good thing for us, because it will make programming this a lot more straightforward, so we can use just massive rectangles. And it doesn't matter if we program stuff that's out of bounds to sound metallic, because that's kind of irrelevant. So I think the easiest way to break this up is going to be one big rectangle here to cover this area. Another big rectangle. All right, that would be 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 1. Have to be in there. 2. 3. 4, 5. Okay, I think we can get away with 5. So start with this corner to that corner. So we now have that region. Let's dead it on over there. Yeah, that shouldn't sound tapped as the player can't actually walk into that wall. The action point would be above that. As for everything else, yeah, I think we've lined it up with the edge quite nicely. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so done correctly. 2751. So that's times 32 plus 2751 equal to 2943. We are overlapping a bit. We made this a 3. Yeah, then it would be perfectly overlapping as we would want. Since we want everything to be relatively lined up with the tiles. Not the lower portion. Lower portion is kind of irrelevant, but the upper portion. Yep, that should be all lined up. Cool. All right, next group we'll work on programming the rest of the sound effects in that upper area. But we'll do that after the break, since I do need to take a quick break. So don't go anywhere, guys. I will be right back. Alrighty, chat. Welcome back, everybody. Let's pick up where we left off to find new areas that are going to be affected by different sound effects. So currently we just defined this spot right here. Next area we'll define as area over here. We're trying to make this entire room sound metallic without making the stone, well, letting the stone sections sound like walking on stone. So, copy this over to make it a little easier to start the region, since this region is close to where we'll have to put the current region that we're editing. So, got that right there. Ironically, this is actually helping us align things. The vertical is actually going to be where we start, so hold on, let's cancel that. 768, okay. 768 is actually where we're going to be starting, so let's, yeah. Just so it's all nice and clean. If we add 64 to this number, it gets us 2757, 2817. I believe that's lined up. Yeah, it's lined up. Okay. Now we can start making adjustments as we see fit. Unfortunately for us, we can actually go a little bit more to the right here. We can go over here. So we'll add 32 on this end, since each space here is 32 by 32 pixels. So 2945 plus 32, 2947, 2977. Yep. Then we add well, 768, we don't really care too much about the ceiling here because that goes beyond what a player can walk through. So that'll do fine. Okay. I think that's the second one we want. Or is it not? Let's see. So we go all the way up there, then we need 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we want to try and aim for covering it just a bit differently. Maybe we actually want to aim more towards, I think we want to aim towards the middle here, so that way we can do this in 5 regions. 2. So we're going to make some adjustments to up here. All right, did Antomicx perfectly on his first try adjust the upper portion of the barrier? Well, let's find out. So if I pull up my calculator on my phone, 1, 2, 3, 4, so 0, 1, 2, 3 and a half. Essentially, we need to move this 3.5 blocks upward. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 4.5 blocks upward, because that's the outer edge. It'd be 768. So it'd be 32 times 4.5 minus 768. And it's 624. We actually got that first try. Look at that, chat. My eagle eyes are, my eagle vision is active. Let's go. Perfectly placed, as all things should be. Now, you might be saying, Antomicx, why didn't you just go all the way up there? The reason why we're not going all the way up there is because we're thinking about how we have to map out all these rectangles to make it the minimum amount of zones necessary to define the sound effect regions without actually messing up our overlapping regions that shouldn't have the sound effect. So what I mean by that, chat, is the way this is shaped, if we had gone all the way up there, we would have needed like 2 spaces over here because of this L shape here. But by going up to here, what that allows us to do is get one big rectangle up here. Then we can do a singular rectangle here. Notice I stopped halfway. It's because of this spot here. So we stop halfway here. The end results, we only end up being 5 regions instead of 4. What even is that, Copper Nicholson? You do seem to have a habit of just pasting in links everywhere, Copper Nicholson. Why is that? You just have a bunch of memes you want to share, or is there something else going on? So, as I was saying, we have that region defined. That means we have 3 more regions for this power room area. I'll start off by grabbing that. Now we're starting from here. We use the right side of that x coordinate as our foundation. We need to go over 3. So 2977. 2977. This is actually a interesting circumstance, chat, because we end up in an area. So this spot here is not metallic, as you can see here, meaning that we don't want the player to sound like they're walking on metal if they're up here. So we actually do have to pull it in from the right side a smidge when we're here, because there's an overlapping higher elevation platform. I know it's a mouthful to say, but what that... Actually, if it is a... I realized that I actually can't... No, wait, no, we can still get away with the rectangle. I was thinking to myself, like, oh, well, that's overlapping, then we'll have to do some adjustments here. Actually, yeah, we will, because that's not metallic. No, that is... Well, looks like we'll still have to do 6 rectangles anyway, chat, but I think if we hadn't done it this way, it would have also just been complicated over here. So it would have been even more. Oh, where was I going with that? Oh, yeah. So, drag this over here. Oh, dear. I am using how the rectangles get smaller when there's a lot of them. You collect a lot of memes and other animes in your relaxation time, and you want to post them, but you don't want to spam chats with constant new messages, so you just collect them. Then you post them all at once, so it only registers as a single post every couple of hours. I mean, to be fair, Copper Nicholson, I know, at least in my case, I do find it a bit overwhelming to see like a sudden surge of like anywhere from 10 to 30 memes all at once in the meme chat. So much so that it just ends up being that I don't look at any of them, because it's like, what even is all this? You know? Like, I can understand trying to be respectful from the sense of, oh, I don't want to be constantly like hitting with notifications over and over again. Like, I can understand that. But when such massive amounts of content are posted all at once, it can come across as spam, as opposed to going link by link as you're discovering things. At least in other servers. That's still a lot, Copper Nicholson. Like in other servers, when I'm looking at, like when I look at a memes channel, usually people post memes as they find them. It's still a lot, Copper Nicholson, because it's happening all at once en masse, and oftentimes. And that goes back to, well, what is spam? So yeah, if you were just posting them link by link as you found them, that'd probably be fine, because you're just, you know, posting them organically as you find them. But when you do it all at once, that's kind of what... how much time in between posts is usually required for it not to be spam? So, basically, Copper Nicholson, it's not necessarily... I would say if you're posting something every couple of seconds, that's probably, like if you find 2 or 3... Like, if you're posting... Like, the rule of thumb I've seen on other servers is if you're posting one link per minute, that's usually fine. It's only... it's when you go faster than I was like, okay, here's a link, then a couple seconds later, here's another link, then a couple seconds later, here's another link. That would be spam, or doing it all at once would most certainly be spam. Or if you're posting the same link over and over and over again, even if it's like spaced out by a long time, that's spam too. But yeah, general ad kit is about a minute between posting links, especially if you have a lot of them. Okay, so up here we got that lined up. Oh, that's lined up over there. Now we need to bring it in. I think the VS value is 8. That makes sense. Or is it 7? Let's try 7. So that would put us to 65. And then we shift things up by 10 here. 14, 694. That should be all right. No, Copper Nicholson. So the reason why I wouldn't misinterpret that as, well, it's not misinterpreted as spam for a couple of reasons, Copper Nicholson. First, the memes channel is meant to be a repository for memes. So someone posting a meme like, maybe every other minute is perfectly acceptable because that's expected for a memes channel. But that would be sort of like, you're looking through there, like, hey, here's a funny meme. Then you do a few searches like, hey, here's another funny meme, and you want to share it with your friends. All well and good. But if you're posting like 5 memes all at once, that can come across as spam. The other thing you can consider, Copper Nicholson, is quality over quantity. So you may find lots of memes that you really like, but decide, you know what? There's just one meme I really want people to see. And in such cases, you can essentially withhold posting the other memes because you're like, you know what? No, this is the only meme I care about right now. That's the one I'd really like people to react to. So by not, essentially, if you like post a bunch of memes, but really there's only one or two you actually care about, getting people's reactions from, then if you post that in the midst of tons of memes, it'll just get lost and people won't see it or people won't care. So, yeah. Honestly, if you're finding like a big amounts of memes that you think are pretty cool, just find 1 or 2 you want to post and leave it at that. Then the next day you can put up another 1 or 2, and then you'll probably get more frequent reactions that way than just, okay, here's like 50 memes. Yeah, I mean, the other thing, Copper Nicholson, is, I mean, DMs are fine, especially if you and your friends are used to using DMs. Yeah. Now, what was I doing? Oh yeah, I was defining the regions. I think that'll do for that zone. Which leaves us with zone up here. Let me just double check where this one is. All right, this one goes a bit lower, I want to say. Yeah, it does. I see that's 14. All right. So we'll use this one as the base. Grab that, move that over there. Calculate the speed of light. Not really. The speed of light isn't as relevant for this. So okay, so let's move this on up. So if this 24 is where we're starting, so 588. Or B598. There you go. Anyway. So we need to move some X coordinates out, specifically. I need to subtract 25 from this, so 27, 92. On the right, at 32, and then 25, so 3007, 3009, 3014, 3034. I think. I'll move that Y coordinate up a bit. Yeah, so that needs to go up to about here. Well, actually, it needs to go a bit higher than that, like about 10 up into that to line up properly with that. Well, just around this corner is going to be a little tricky because we'll be at a platform where it's not the same, so it should sound metallic upon rain. So let's just, the compromise would be to roughly line up with that platform, I think. Okay, so that's 96 upward we need to go. Well, actually, no, not 96, 32. 48, okay. Well, that then. Oh, red versus blue. It's really funny, Copper Nicholson. It came out, but I think it was either Rooster Teeth's first major production or one of their first. So it came out well before Ruby did, and it was basically like, especially the earlier seasons, they're really funny. And the way they did that, because this was in an era where 3D animation was a lot harder to come by, so what they did was they would go into like Halo 2 matches, like Halo 2 private matches, and essentially just have like maneuver characters around and have them like wiggle about back and forth to make it seem like they're talking, and do various recordings like that. And it's it was really, I have to admit, it was very innovative use of the Halo 2's private match system to make it to fit what they were going for. I don't understand, Copper Nicholson. You mean the... Oh, well, at least in red versus blue, the color red is meant to represent the color of their armor, just as they call the people in the blue teams means blue because they generally have blue armor. Oh, I see. Well, I'll also say that I don't remember what year it was. You definitely have to look up on YouTube to determine the year, but yeah, red versus blue came out well before people became a lot more conscious about the harm saying words like that does, especially if it's just south. So Copper Nicholson, when red versus blue came out, that was in the somewhat earlier. I think it was in the earlier. I think it was the earlier 2000s. It's either the earlier 2000s or the earlier 2010s. So before that was people were more understanding of that. So that's just more, I think, a relic of the past at that point. Beyond that, though, Copper Nicholson, do you otherwise enjoy the show? Let's see, I need to remove 48. So 592 minus 8, 586 minus 40, 546. And you might be wondering, chat, why am I saying these numbers out loud? So basically, me saying those out loud would be me doing in my head the equivalent of writing out the subtraction process for the calculation. I think we might actually want to move that up a smidge. No, it'll be fine. I think it should be fine. Okay. I think that leaves, we have to do up there. Do over here. I think that'll cover it. Yep, so all that's left is over here and up there. Grab that. Grab that. Yep. So while I'm working on this, some other things I've been up to in my free time just to relax a bit. So I did make an Elden Ring character that tried to do another low-range Elden Ring low-level Elden Ring PvP character. And my thought process was I wanted to have a PvP character that primarily uses the normal scythe, not like the grave scythe or anything, just a plain old normal scythe with an Ash of War called the Phantom Slash. And that's because I started using the Phantom Slash in a separate playthrough. That's a bit more just for fun. And I was using it on my, like, the character I have with like the power stancing scythes. And I was finding it really, really, really fun. I found the Phantom Slash to be really, really, really fun Ash of War on Reaper. So I thought, this would be pretty cool to use on a low-level PvP character. But that ended up becoming a challenge into itself because the Phantom Slash Ash of War can only be acquired after defeating Morgott, which means if I want to do, say, a level 30 character with weapons that are not upgraded any more than, say, +2, and I'm saying non-somber upgrade, so it'd be +2 for regular or +1 for somber. It was became quite the interesting challenge, shall I say. So basically doing a basically low equipment level run to get to a point where I could have the Ash of War that I want. Now, I was able to do it. I was very happy when I pulled it off, and it required making some good use of spirit ashes, since leveling those up doesn't, I don't think, affect your PvP bracket. So now, let's see here. That should be moved up 1. Now we have to move these up 10 because of how things all line up. So it sits 30, 598. And that just leaves one thing. Oh, this might be a question for you, Copper Nicholson. So, are there any in the past? Have you ever played a game and you decide, you know what, I want to see if I can do something that's a bit unorthodox? Say, like trying to beat a level in a platformer without jumping or something like that, just for fun. As I used to do that a decent amount in some older games. Like, maybe I might have a platform and be like, I wonder if I could get through this level without using X, Y, or Z ability, whatever that might be. Or have you ever been like, you know what, I want to do this, I want to play this strategy RPG that normally has like a Fire Emblem game with lots of characters, but I only want to use like a specific class of characters just for funsies. Or I think it was Halo that had, like Halo and Destiny, that had those kinds of I think I forget what they're called, but basically like you'd activate them and they would make essentially a playthrough more challenging, but give you a higher score or something like that. Don't forget what they're called, but I remember stuff like that being fun. Basically saying like, okay, I'll give myself an ad challenge to increase my score. So we start over here, 2792. Go up 32, so that's 2760. Oh dear. Actually, hold on. That's not quite right. That was the x coordinates. I need the y coordinates. Start at 546. This becomes 512. Did I do that correctly? 544. And we'll move these over a bit. Does that line up correctly? I'm trying to think. So the way, yeah, it should line up about correctly. Okay. We'll try that. We'll try that configuration. And then we'll see how that goes. So that covers this entire central metallic room. And based off what I'm seeing on this central portion, I think that actually covers the central portion. So I think we're in a good spot to actually try and test this one out. Now, the thing is, I don't think I have both of the keys. I mean, I sincerely doubt I have both of the keys. So we'll have to adjust some locations to allow us into that central portion. To adjust some barriers, so to speak. I might have actually already adjusted the barriers. Or, no, I didn't. I did not. The easiest thing for us to adjust would actually be this barrier here. What we would do is we would remove this barrier, which allows us to go up here and essentially go through this area backwards. Actually, no, that wouldn't work because we won't be able to get to this room. It would be faster though. So in that case, let's do it. I think we move. Yeah, that's an impassable wall. I'm trying to think of what's the thing I can do here that's going to cause the least amount of headaches for me when pushing, when putting the walls back, nets back to each other. I think the easiest thing to do will be take this impassable wall, move it out here. Nope. I said move it out here. We'll take like this visible. So we'll set that. If that's to 0, the blind coefficient, so we can actually see that. Nope, cancel. Okay. And with this. Yeah, so we move that down there so we can actually get through. I guess we could also, to make it really obvious that this is incorrect, it should give us barely enough space to squeeze in and do our testing. So let's maybe once I adjust something chat, I'll write a little note for myself so I don't forget that these things were moved. Alright. Reminder. Double check all wall tiles in this area. Since you moved an 8x1 wall tile near the hydroponics tavern and a 4x1 wall tile near the right path leading to the central path in order to reach the central path without having both keys. Alright. Now let's head on over there. That's your iPhone now. Alright, fair enough, Copper Nicholson. Let's head on over for testing. So basically, chat, we're going to be testing with our ears here. We'll be listening very carefully for this sound effect, essentially. And we'll be taking notes for things that don't quite sound right or line up correctly. Yeah. How many seasons of Red vs. Blue have I watched? I want to say I watched up through when the meta was. Sorry, I don't want to say spoilers. I've watched up through. I don't remember what season it was. Maybe it's like season 8 or 10 or something. Again, I'm trying to say, like, okay, how can I describe this without actually going into spoilers? So basically, I saw up until the point where they started doing more skits, as opposed to that are irrelevant to the plot, like when the plot was still relevant. Anyway. Okay, so that lines up well. Believe so. Yeah. So at that point, you know, once they got past that point, and that just became a bunch of like little shorts and stuff like that, or when other stuff like that, I was like, not really as interested, because it doesn't feel like they're talking about much about the plot anymore. Now they're just doing silly memes. But now we got. Let's over there. Okay, so that all lines up quite nicely. Let's try the upper path. Might need to be adjusted slightly on the left side. Yeah, just one. I guess not, because it would still technically be like a stone surface there. Like, how's it look on? Yeah, okay, I think that's fine. Now, all right, Copper Nicholson, drive safely. Cool. All right, I think that central grade sounds fine. Now we'll defeat some enemies up here so we can do what we need to do. Now, why I just use my melee attack there, since there are a lot of enemies here. I want to make sure we're all right. So, boop. And boop. And boop. And boop. And boop. As you can see, this is the most efficient way to defeat enemies, is to alternate between melee weapons and ranged weapons. So, making good use of all equipment available. It's very, very important for Heartwell's combat. Now we'll defeat the Cobra so we can conduct our testing in peace. Should adjust that edge. Okay, let's add that to our notes. We'll do someone will great. Lower zone by a couple of pixels. Put in italics as a reminder for ourselves. As we should still be signing italics, we're still technically on the. Yeah, we will definitely need to adjust that quite a bit to get that all lined up correctly. But the upper side sounds fine. Let's see about up here. Might also want to adjust that. I think all these regions probably need to be popped out just a little bit, so someone walking out will not be hearing these stones. So our notes. All pipe areas below extend its bounds by 7 in each direction. That'll do. Alright, now let's at least test the Y coordinates. Same thing, we have to move that down too. And lower Y bounds by several pixels. Okay, let's defeat these enemies. Boop and boop. Yeah, it's not be for all of them, for the lower bounds, now we'll the upper bounds. Alright, still sounds like metal. I lightly tap. I fall down. Alright, I think the upper bound is good, Del. So now we'll head on over here for the other test. So, boop. And over here. Upper bound's fine. Left bound's fine. It's just that right bound that needs adjusting. Alright, let's test on over here, chat. Oh. I forgot. Forgot to copy over the lines to the code to the reset line. Silly me. The 1046 is where the last one was. Whoops. Okay. 931. And this is a prime opportunity to readjust some lines. 931. 768. 694. And then 624. 630. And 544. With that, adjust that to 0. Adjusting that to 0. Adjusting that 0. Adjust that 0. Adjust this to 0. Adjust this to surprise, surprise to 0. Bada bing, bada boom. All right. Now with that, let's go over our notes we do have so far for things that need adjusted. So all our pipe areas need ruts bounds set by 7 pixels in either direction, and the wide bounds lowered by 7 pixels. Same thing goes with the cabinet. Start with the 1126 value and go from there. Yep. There's the 1126 value. I think what we actually want to do is lower it down by effectively 1 tile. And so I'll technically overlap with the that down there. Let's try 16 or 32. Well, 16 would be 1144, so let's try that. And for good measure, another 16 would put us at 1160. Do we go with a level 50? That should be plenty of space for us. Now it does need to be extended to the left and right by about 7. Try 2809. 2855. Now, if you're saying Antomicx, why do we want to send it over that? That has to do with the location of the action points. It's the location of the action points what's determining whether the sound effect's being played. So because of the size of the collision box for Dorothy, if Dorothy's standing down here, her action point might actually cross this region because, again, there's a certain width to that collision box that would prevent that from crossing, whereas when she's up here, she, of course, can cross that distance. All right. We'll want to adjust that line down there. We don't lose track of it. Because if I will lose track of it if I go into autopilot mode. Autopilot isn't like just programming without thinking much. And there are many times when you have to do stuff en masse with programming to essentially put your mind on autopilot and just get done what you need to get done. Now, same principle over here. 45 to the left, 91 to the right. Downwards, we'll increase that by 16 first, so that will put us at 1206. Then we'll add a few more, so might as well go to 1210. 1216. And that should give us plenty to work with right there. I'll copy that one down just to be safe, chat, so we don't forget. Under 1150. As they say in Xenoblade 2, don't forget me. Don't forget me. Anyway, don't forget me. Does anyone else know that meme? I think it was Captain Pardrate or something like that, who would say that over and over and over again in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 before they patched it out. It became a massive meme. All right. Now the left side's actually fine because we have that impassable wall. The right side, though, needs adjusting. 2727. Just this down by, this team would be 74. And we'll add a little bit. So let's go to 84. That should be plenty. And of course, copy that on down. Delete the old one. Now, that just leaves this one. Yep. So that needs adjusting. If we add 16, it should be. Also, I need a lot more than 16, I think, so 32. What would that be? 46 plus 32. And 78. That'd be too much. 1062. Let's try that. Should hopefully be enough to cover what we need to. 1184. Set that to 0. All right, and we should be all set to test this out, chat. Let's give it a try. On over. Carefully platforming. Nice and easy. No rush. We'll get there. We get there, as they say. All right. Time for testing. So first thing we do with testing, chat, is we basically walk along the perimeter to make sure that there aren't any zones. Oh, no, that's fine, it's there. Make sure we don't have any zones of overlap on like the lower level. So far, so good. Sounding just fine. Up here. Sounds good. Good. Still metal. Try and land on like the outer edge of this just to make sure it sounds metallic. Yeah, I think that's probably the outer edge or close to the outer edge and still metallic, so that's good. Alright, still metallic. Yeah! Look at that, chat. I mean, we're still up here. We're like, you see, like, there's just a tiny, tiny, tiny pixel of Dorothy that's still on this upper platform. And then we fall off, it's it off, and alright, that right side's good. Let's try the left side. Yep. I think we dodge, chat. Look at that. The tiniest portion of Dorothy is staying on the outer edge of this. Then we fall down. Good. Alright, I think that means the others will probably be fine, but we'll double check. Now it's starting to sound like we're walking on a nice metal platform. Okay. So I shimmy carefully over to the right. Still metal. Haven't fallen down yet. Fall down. Good. Okay. Right side looks good. Whoops. We have to try the lower portion as well. Make sure this... It's a bit harder to line that up, so... Alright, still sounds like metal. Good. Alright, over here. Let's see if we can... Oops. It's probably gonna be fine, but I'll just double check it then. So chat, this is the kind of stuff that video game testers have to do at video game companies. So basically, it's not like you might think, oh yeah, video game testers, that must be so cool, you have to play games early and stuff, right? Not really. You are technically playing the game, but you're not usually just playing for fun or anything like that. What you're usually doing is you're testing for bugs or various things. Like they might give you a set of instructions and they tell you like, okay, go to this door, see if you can walk through it or anything like that. Or like in my case, right now I'm testing sound effects in this region. It's like just test the sound effects in this region. So it's not really, it's very much, it's still very, very much work. but a very necessary thing as well, because good quality testing at a fundamental level makes a big difference between makes all the difference between games that release with massive amounts of bugs and games that release with nothing super major. It's almost impossible to release a game that's truly free of bugs. But there's also no doubt that there's a massive difference in, we'll say, quality control between games released by AAA studios even like a decade or two ago versus now, because it's all about pre-orders. So they're just trying to, so a lot of the money that would have otherwise gone to a quality control instead goes into marketing and trying to do well at like conventions. But quality control is important. Especially in the video game industry. Especially having a release with lots of bugs to be a real damper, put a real damper on things, to make people frustrated because they want to enjoy the game. But if there are like a bunch of bugs that are like fucking save files and stuff, or stuff that's game breaking, that can really mess with people's perception of games. Now, I think the center portion's fine. Let's test this right pipe. Alright, I'm slowly shimmying down. Alright, lower portion's fine. Let's test the outer edge. So head on over here. Left edge sounds fine. The upper edge sounds fine. I think we're good. Alright. This area is all sorted. Now let's try up here. There's something so satisfying about just hearing the footstep sound effects sound correct in areas like this. Like, it's such a subtle thing, but it definitely helps with immersion. Thinking... This is a tricky one because, on the one hand, things don't depend on what the player looks like. Yeah, from there, the player might not look like they're stepping quite on metal yet. Obviously, it looks like when we're going up and down, but like this. Do I dare adjust that? I think it'll probably be fine. So people could logically think of it as like they're standing on like the edge here. They haven't quite stepped on. But then they step on and suddenly, oh, metal. Alright. And over here is, okay, okay. No, we haven't cleared this area yet. Yeah, now this all sounds metallic. Very, very good. Same thing over here. Oops. This we're going for melee. Or not. Whoops. That was entirely my fault. Got a little too overconfident there. That's very much the case. Good Souls-likes punish overconfidence. In my opinion, anyway. Yep, speaking of Souls-likes, though, getting back to the low-level PvP character with the Phantom Slash. So to defeat Morgod at a low level, you might ask, what did you do, Antomicx? Well, the first thing I did was I used my a short bow with some poison arrows, since I had at that point learned to a fair degree the attack patterns for Morgod, so it was easier to use in my my head just a bow and then try to stay at distance. That by itself was not enough. So with the spirit summons, the spirit summon that I found works the best for me, at least on that fight, was I think it's called like the Ancestral Spirit Ashes. Basically the giant archers in the Siofra River region. It's a Spirit Ash that is received from defeating the Ancestral Spirit. Or, sorry, the Ancestor Spirit, or basically the magical reindeer boss that's in the Siofra River. And I looked up on the Elden Ring wiki to find the location of, essentially I found that without actually getting past Morgott, it was possible to upgrade that Spirit Ash all the way to +9, which I found kind of hilarious, but also amazing. Because when I did update that Spirit Ash to +9, it had just a ludicrous amount of health. It was dealing like at least 400 damage to Morgott per arrow that was launching. Granted, the rate at which it launches the arrows is very slow because it takes time to line up its attack. But when it does line up, it does amazing damage. It's basically the equivalent of getting hit by a decently upgraded, not a fully upgraded, but a decently upgraded heavier weapon, or doing some power stancing. But it's from a distance and it's automatic and almost always hits. I mean, automatic in the sense that it's done by an NPC as opposed to us. Uh-oh. Gotta heal. Not today. Anyway, let's test the metal in this area. Make sure it all sounds metallic. Gotta make sure it's all lined up. Alrighty. So far, so good. Now let's test out here. Oh, whoops. Forgot about that. Oh. That one can see us. I wonder. Can I line this up? Almost. Okay, so far not hay metal. No metal. Good. Alright. Looks like the metal there seems to be lined up well. It's looking like I've got it all dialed in, which is a good thing to see. In terms of metal placement, do want to get rid of that corral if we can, so it just isn't as much of a nuisance. I hope I lined that up right. I did, but I just got another rattlesnake. Alright, well, let's test up here. Good. That sounds rocky. That sounds metallic. Oh, I'm glad you got home, Copper Nicholson. I have to imagine now that it's nighttime, it's probably a bit cooler outside. Yep. If we got the metal up here all lined up. Yep. So looks like we might have got this all lined up. Which is really, really, really good. Well, Copper Nicholson, I guess my question to you is, how are you doing with your finances? Like, you know, if you have the income to spare and you're trying to treat yourself, then go for it. But, you know, if you don't have the income to spare or you're trying to save up, then you might want to hold off on it. I find that it's very tempting to make impulse buys when one is tired, and it's better to kind of look at things with a fresh head. Right, but I'm saying, like, what's your current financial situation, Copper Nicholson? Like, do you have disposable income? come for such things, or are you in a situation where you're trying to save up for some goal? Alright, let's test this out. So this portion up here. Alright. Yeah, I also think we nailed we've nailed a lot of the metallic areas here. Yep, so now we're just ever so slightly on it. Now we're ever so slightly off it. Alright, I think we got that all lined up. Now let's see if we can defeat Cabrattle before Cabrattle defeats us. Alright. Somehow they have such a massive hitbox that they're hitting the wall. Oh, got it. Now we can test over here. That's good. Right, but I asked the question, and it comes back to Copper Nicholson, is that $50 you want to save, like save, or $50 that you're using to pay off something, or is it like, no, I just have 50 bucks and I want to spend it how I see fit? That's, you know, something to think about. Especially since, I think you posted about getting, a cool, like, transformer recently. So far, so good. Whoops. Alright. I think we got... Yeah. I think we've got all the metal in this area down to a science. Whee! Hey. Alright, well with that, chat, I think we've got all the... Well, I'll check down there just to be safe, but I think the metal in this area is actually well programmed. See, look at this, chat. Stellaris. It sounds all metallic. Oh, metallic. Let's test over here. Yep, alright. I think we got all the metal figure off of this area, chat, so that is a big accomplishment, because that is a massive section of metal. So, got through there, got through there. So that means central path is done. Metal footstep. Read. Placement notes. So, chat. Now that we've done that, the next area that needs metallic area set up is actually this kitchen right here. The kitchen right there. We'll need to do something with these bathrooms over here. And then it's just this room up here. So we're getting down. That's the central region with metal. Now all we have to do is the eastmost region with metal. But so we'll, I think, pick up with that a little bit after after the break. So don't go around, guys. I will be right back. All right, chat. Welcome back, everyone. I do feel myself. I definitely feel myself fading a bit because it has been a long week. So we'll try to finish up as many regions as we can here before we finish up the stream. So let's identify the remaining. Let's start by identifying the remaining areas that need metal. After I move this wall back to where it needs to be, I think is right there. So that's there. Is there anything back there? Yeah, there's an impassable wall there. Impassable wall there. Yeah, so between that, we should be fine. All right. I'll remove that from my notes since I moved that one back. I mean, I'll obviously have to move the 8x1 back, but we'll leave this here for now since we'll have to go through that way anyway to get to this part of the map. Speaking of which, removing this is probably going to be the easiest way for us to get to that portion of the map. So let's definitely adjust back to my notes. And a 8x1 wall near the stairwell at the start of the left path. All right. Did you discuss that with KK Copper Nicholson? Because normally when someone makes a work of art Copper Nicholson, they try to keep it nice for as long as they can. But if they're okay with it, then that's fine. But again, you should probably discuss it with them first, just because if they made it, they probably want some say in how it's taken care of. As I know with me, for example, like whenever I've been gifted like a piece of art, what I tend to do is I try to keep it nice. As I was saying, Copper Nicholson, that did you ask KK whether or not that was okay to do? Because I know at least whenever I receive a piece of art as a gift, I try to keep it as nice as possible for as long as I can, as a show of respect to the artist, as well as so that can enjoy the art for as long as I can. So I was just wondering if you talked that over with KK before you decided to leave it out in the rain. We'll move this one. I'll put in my notes here. This was moved to out of bounds. I think you should follow up with her, Copper Nicholson, since you didn't ask them directly ahead of time. That's not the point, Copper Nicholson. If they took the time to make something for you, and you're just going to choose to effectively destroy it slowly, leave it out in the elements, I would say, at least ask the person who made it for you if that's all right or not. Because I mean, let me put you this way, Copper Nicholson. How would you feel? What, like, remember Copper Nicholson? You made you made some nice I think those that nice craft of like with those little plastic circles of like Dorothy as a birthday present. Like, yeah, like, do you remember making that gift and going through that process? Probably gluing those beads all together so it made a nice bit of pixel art. Outbounds, just below the cafeteria. Do you remember that, Copper Nicholson? Yeah, well, let me ask you that. Like, Copper Nicholson, did you, do you remember how much time you put into making those? Well, you're not answering my question, Copper Nicholson. How much time did you spend making those? I want you to think about that for a moment before I make my next point. All right. All right, Copper Nicholson, so it took you a long time. All right, I want you to think about that for a moment. So it took you a long time to make that thing. Now, I want you to imagine, Copper. Okay, so you see what I'm saying, that it took a really long time to make, and now that you're destroying it without her permission, it's like... That isn't, that wouldn't sit right with me if I gave someone a gift that I worked on, and then they decided to just destroy it without asking for my permission. Okay, so now we can go over here. Right, I was identifying regions. So, we'll do left path. So there is metal. All right, so where are you going with this, Copper Nicholson? You spent a lot of effort to get home safely without damaging it. All right, so okay, so you're destroying one of the duplicates then? Ah, okay. So that's better than what you seem to be describing originally. So you're just destroying a duplicate. All right. Now that being said, no, you did not, Copper Nicholson. Or at least I don't remember you saying it. Like from what I read, I thought you were saying that you basically took the original piece of art and were destroying it. I was like, what? Why? Like, why would you leave it out in the rain? Like, I was puzzled. All right, so you took a duplicate. I'd still say if you took a duplicate and you were destroying the duplicate and posting about it on Discord or something, it still might be worthwhile to ask KK if that's all right. Obviously, it's not the original piece, but I could definitely see how someone might take it the wrong way. Still, if it's like saying, "Hey, this is a copy of something really cool that someone made, and I'm just messing with it." Like, some people are okay with that, some people aren't. It's a case by case basis sort of thing. That's why I'm just saying I just want to check in, double check, just to be respectful. All right, I'm glad we're on the same page then. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. Where did I move? That's fine. So we have metal cabinet slash furniture. Kitchen. We have metal portions in the first bathroom. Well, I'm saying, did you ask her specifically, or I'm asking Copper Nicholson, have you discussed it with them before you've actually done this before? Or do they only find out about it when they see the posts? All right. Well, I mean, my point is, Copper Nicholson, as long as you've talked to them before you've, done it, then that's, and they're fine with it, then that's fine. But I'm just looking at it from the perspective of seeing that as without having talking about it before and just being taken completely off guard by that could be a bit unnerving. So that's why I'm just saying this. As long as you've talked it over with them first before you start doing it, that's fine. I'm just trying to make sure that you did that just so that so they're not taken off guard one day and they're like, why is Copper destroying these duplicates of the artwork I made for them? Okay, then, and as long as they were okay with that, then that's fine. I'm just making sure that that you made sure to ask for permission first. That's all. As long as you did, and as long as they were okay with it, then no harm, no foul. Just making sure that everyone's boundaries were respected. Anyway, that's all I have to say on the matter. If you have permission and everyone's fine with it, then no problem there. Now, this is an interesting conundrum. Should the bed be metal? I think it would be metal. I mean, granted, obviously the actual surface is not metal, but it's on a metal cot, so it still would make sound. We'll say metal beds, infirmary. Metal sink in the infirmary. Metal grates in the infirmary. Okay. we have any winding paths like this over here? Not really. Okay. So I think for this winding path, that'll take probably the most programming effort. Whereas stuff that's like straight lines, like up here, will probably require the least amount of effort. Okay. And these require a bit more effort. Okay, fair enough, Copper Nicholson. I've already said fair enough, Copper Nicholson. There's no need to. There's no need to continue at that point. As long as everyone is fine, everything's fine. Yeah, I think we'll probably wrap up here. I am feeling myself starting to fade, and I know when I fade, I make more mistakes. So we don't want to do that. So we'll say what I like to do with my notes is bold it, highlight it, and that's these program metal footstep regions for the left path. That'll be a nice little reminder. Anyway, chat, so I will begin to wrap things up here. If you're watching on Twitch, feel free to stick around for Raid. If you're watching on YouTube and you like what you saw, please consider subscribing on YouTube. It's free to subscribe on YouTube. You can always change your mind later. That's a great way to show support. If you're watching on YouTube, I hope you have an amazing night.